The Maldives National Party's parliamentary group have decided to submit a motion to our parliament, the Majlis, to clarify how the government of Maldives has acted in bringing President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to Maldives. I think this is a very good action. Personally, and as a former foreign minister, I am very concerned with the current situation. We all know that Sri Lanka is in a crisis economically as well as politically. People are barely surviving without jobs, food, there's no fuel. In such a situation, I believe Maldives should also respect the wishes of the Sri Lankan people, and they have been working to change this government, and I think this is something that we need to be sensitive about. I believe leaders should be held accountable for their actions in any country, and hence the Sri Lankan people have been expressing their wishes in this regard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A state of emergency has been declared in Sri Lanka by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe after President Rajapaksa fled the country last night. This follows weeks of protests on the island, with inflation running at more than 50%, rocketing the price of everyday goods. The health system is on the verge of collapse due to lack of medicine. There is no fuel for essential transport services and medical vehicles. There have been power cuts, school closures, and we woke this morning to protesters overtaking the Prime Minister's office, tear gas fired by police, a curfew imposed on the capital, and the national TV broadcast suspended. This is a crisis in democracy, decades in the making. The world turned away when the Rajapaksa government cluster-bombed its own people committing genocide, murdered its journalists and enriched a small group led by one family. Their malign dynastic control has stripped the country bare, leaving behind a broken nation on the brink of economic collapse. Sri Lanka is unable to buy essential goods from abroad and for the first time in its history failed to make a payment on its foreign debt, a consequence of swinging populist tax cuts at the time of economic instability. Tory leadership candidates, beware. An IMF bailout is essential. But does the Minister agree with me that any financial assistance must go hand in hand with democratic and human rights reforms, particularly for the Tamil community, who continue to fight for truth, justice and accountability as a result of the human rights abuses perpetrated at the end of the civil war by the outgoing Rajapaksa regime?
Speaker, can I first of all congratulate the Honourable Lady, Member for Mitcham Ward, on securing this question, and can I agree with her that this horrible, appalling situation for the people of Sri Lanka has been brought about by the corruption of the Rajapaksa government, their populist unfunded tax cuts, their skyrocketing defence expenditure, their draconian police powers, and the cronyism and corruption like we've rarely ever seen. And therefore, can I urge the Minister to work with international partners for a full economic and political solution to support the Democrats in Sri Lanka? Can we start with an economic package with the IMF and others so we can give immediate support? But can that be followed and included with a political package which includes an international arrest warrant for President Rajapaksa and his cronies? Can it also include a demand for political freedom, the respect of rights and human rights of everyone on the island of Sri Lanka, including the Tamil and Muslim minorities?